Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know the lighting is really bad right now. The sun is already set. I just got off of an airport standby shift, which was 5 hours, and then I just ate dinner and I'm like inspired to just film a video because lately I just feel like I've been in a rut and I haven't had any creative ideas when it comes to content creation, and I've been off of social media. I feel like trends on social media have been really bugging me lately, and I've just kind of been like removing myself from the content creation equation. But anyways, I have an exciting video today for all my book lovers out there. I realized I want to give you guys more of a glimpse inside my personality and my interests and my hobbies, and as I create more videos, that will be apparent. But anyways, today's video, I want to talk about all the books that I have been reading this year. Spoiler alert, I use Goodreads, and if you're on Goodreads, I will leave my profile down below in the description box and you can go ahead and follow me there. Without further ado, also if you're new here, hi, my name is Becca. I'm a Seattle-based flight attendant, and today I'm going to tell you that I like to read. So if you're interested in hearing the titles that I've been reading this year, then keep on watching. I also want to start by saying that someone very important to me recently got me a Kindle, and I named her Sage because she is sage green. She's a new addition to my life, but she has been honestly making me a reading machine, and yes, it's a she. I use the Libby app for all my library loans, and I figured out how to put my loans from Libby onto my Kindle, so I've been using her to definitely increase the pace of which I've been reading. So I'm recently converted to the Kindle gang. Maybe in the future I'll do like Kindle specific videos or something like that. If you see me looking to the side, it's because I have my Goodreads pulled up on my laptop as I'm filming, and so I'm just referencing titles and authors in my book log as we go through this list. General categories of things that I'm interested in. I run the gamut of things that I like to read. One thing that you guys probably don't know about me, I'm very interested in personal finance. I find the topic of just managing your money so, first of all, incredibly important, and then second of all, just really interesting, and I like finding ways that I could be improving my own money situation, and I'll have future videos talking about that on flight attendant salary coming up later. I also like, obviously, fantasy, hello, romantacy, romance, love all of that stuff, eat it up. I also really like to read books, nonfiction books about either philosophy or diet, exercise, plant-based eating, things like that. I'm just curious, what the experts out there have to say about those things. So those are like the categories of books. Obviously, historical fiction. I love Bridgerton. Anything in that realm is fair game. And yeah, let's just get right into the list. The first book I read this year, at the very beginning of this year, was called The Financial Feminist: Overcoming the Patriarchy's Bull to Master Your Money and Build a Life You Love by Tori Dunlap. Also, I'll put a picture of the books I'm talking about right here so you can see the covers of the books I'm talking about. Financial Feminist. Okay, I rated it a 3-star read on Goodreads, and ultimately I think it was really great advice, probably for someone who doesn't know much about the basics of personal finance and managing your, like, having a budget, sticking to it, living within your means. Had some really good information on debt payoff methods, and which I'm always curious about because, hi, I'm Becca and I have a lot of student loan debt, but I think it was basic stuff, and because I already listened to personal finance podcasts, nothing was really new to me. It was kind of just reaffirming things I already knew. But of course, Tori Dunlap, if you follow her podcast, her first 100K, you would know that she speaks her mind. She's unfiltered. So if that kind of like punchy kind of voice is something that you gravitate towards, then I think you would really like this book. And I mean, if you want to learn the basics, then I think she's your girl. I think you'll like it. Next book I read was Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I have heard of Brandon Sanderson a lot over the years, especially for like young adult almost like teen fiction fantasy, and I'd never read any of his stuff. To be honest, I saw the cover of this book and I was like, oh my god, it's so pretty, and it's a cute fantasy novel, just a standalone novel, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm in the mood for, just like one story, not a series. Brandon Sanderson has he really likes different use of like the English language in his writing. I'm doing a bad job explaining this, but he likes to use alliteration and puns, and he has a very witty style of writing, at least in this novel. I know he runs the gamut in fantasy, but at least in this novel, it was a very witty writing style where, you know, you'd have to have a good grasp of different conventions used in English to laugh at the punchline. So you have to really be paying attention. And I think the book kind of lost my interest at some point, so I rated that 3 stars. Next book I read this year was Atomic Habits. This was back in February, so of course, you know, it's the new year, you want to like start new habits. This book, and it's written by James Clear. Atomic Habits, I wrote a little I use Notion also. Notion is a free kind of workspace you can use with like your Google account, and you can just customize your own kind of database for your life. Basically, it's like Google Drive all in one, mixed with like productivity tools. I could do a whole nother video on that, on my Notion setup, because I basically use my Notion as like my digital planner for I call it my life admin, my life administration, just to make sure like I'm getting all the things done I need to do. Anyways, tangent. With Atomic Habits, of course, I took notes on it using Notion, from the chapters, the key takeaways, and I do think at the time when I was reading it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna change my ways. But of course, like if you fall off the bandwagon and don't stick to the new habits, then you revert back to old patterns. And honestly, this year with flying, I know it's an excuse, but I will revisit it since I took such like descriptive notes from the book. I will revisit the key takeaways, but as of right now, I kind of put it on the pause. I put a pause button on it, but I did rate it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Davenports by Krystal Marquis. And this is going to be a series, but this was just the first one that she's written so far. And it was historical fiction based on an affluent Black family in, oh God, I can't remember the year, but I want to say like 1700s America. And it was really good. It's very similar to Bridgerton. So if you like books in that vein, written from a different POV by characters of color, I think you would enjoy that book. I rated it 3 stars just because the ending, I was like, this is like the worst ending for every character in the novel. I know it is a series though, so I'm hopeful that Davenport's number 2 will be better. The next book I read this year is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And again, personal finance, because that's what I'm obsessed with. This book was a really, really quick read for me. It's also not that big of a book either. And Morgan Housel goes more so into like the background of, he gives a lot of anecdotes about rich people and how they've gotten their money through like historical stories or anecdotes of people in his life, or people he's researched, and how like people who are born with money or have money might not keep their money, and the fallacies that come into play, and just the human decision making and the thought process of our human psychology and how that impacts your money and your money habits. I hope that makes sense. That was kind of a ramble. But so was this author telling me like how to manage my checking and savings account? No, he was more so writing about why we feel urges and impulses to spend money in certain situations, and the gives and takes, the luck aspect of money, and just overarching very high level guidelines of how to live within your means and how to know when enough is enough, and very top level investing advice as well. Next, I'm going to speed run a few other books I've read this year. A Court of Silver Flames, which is Court of ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, book number 4 by Sarah J. Maas, the one and only. I rated that one 4 stars. Enough said. If you know, you know. If you're on Book Talk, if you like romantacy, like you already know what's up. Then I read back to back a bunch of books in the Bridgerton series because I have limited edition of the entire series, and I have a YouTube short that shows all the covers. They're so beautiful. I'll link that up above. So I have already read the first one at the time, but I read books number 2, 3, and 4 back to back to back. You can check out my Goodreads for what I rated each of them. I understand a lot of the criticism that Julia Quinn has received based on the Bridgerton book series, and I will say, like, it's a night and day difference watching the Bridgerton show and reading the books. Shonda Rhimes, she's just an amazing producer, and you can just, there's so much more depth with the characters and even the storylines in the show versus the books. The books are very flat, if I'm being honest, but I do admire the writing style. Like, regardless of where Julia Quinn has fell flat, I do think like her voice as Lady Whistledown and the writing style and the way the characters interact with each other and talk, there's still magic there. So I do think they're still worth reading, even though you just have to go into reading the books knowing it's not going to be as good as the show, unfortunately. The next book I read was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, and this was, it's a series, Legends and Lattes, fantasy series, and this was the prequel actually that was just released called Bookshops and Bone Dust, and it's about an orc, Viv, and I would call this cozy fantasy, and it is like wrapping yourself in a nice fall blanket with a cup of hot cocoa or tea or something warm and reading on a rainy day. Like, it's about Viv, an orc who has a warrior past, and now she wants to live a simpler life, and she finds herself settling down in a small town and opening a coffee shop. And if you like coffee, if you like bakery or baked goods, like, you're gonna like that book. If you like fantasy, there's a little bit of a LGBT love story. So if you're into that, please check out Bookshops and Bone Dust. It will not disappoint. Next on my list, I read The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I think he's Greek. I don't know how to say his last name. Michaelides. But anyways, he wrote one of the craziest thriller books that I've read in my entire life, which was called The Silent Patient, and I lived by myself in an apartment at the time, and after I finished that book, I had to check the locks on my apartment, I'm not kidding you, 5 times before, like, I would go to bed and then get out of bed to check the locks on my apartment door because I was that spooked and did not see the twist in the end at all. So I had high expectations going into The Fury, even though it's a completely different book from The Silent Patient. I'm actually really disappointed in this book. It's basically like Hollywood actors go on like a little getaway from their stressful daily lives, and all the characters know each other from different moments of the main actress's life and different points of her life, and they all have kind of a different power struggle when it comes to their relationship with her, and you know, they're actors, so everything they do is dramatic, and they end up putting on a play in this Greek island vacation, and things just go awry, and it ends up being kind of like a whodunit murder mystery. I had really high expectations, but this one was just a 3 stars. Like, I was actually really disappointed. I still have hope for this author though, because that first book he wrote was just fantastic. So I would recommend that one for sure. Next, I read 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna West. And this one, she was thick. This was a thick book. And it took me a while to read it because I was taking notes on the takeaways of every chapter, which every chapter is an essay written by a different person. And it's just kind of giving you general life advice. And this one is definitely for like my anxious girlies out there who are maybe in your mid to late 20s like me, and you're kind of like, what the F am I doing with my life? Yeah, this book is for you. If you really sit with it, and do not binge this book, like each essay, really just absorb it and take something away from it. It's not a page turner. It's kind of like, you gotta like let that piece of advice stick with you. Some of it is listicle style, 101 ways to be satisfied with your life or something like that would be an example. So it's a lot of topics like that, and it's kind of like therapy in a book. That's how I would describe it. I gave it 4 stars. If we're seeing a trend here, I very rarely give out 5-star ratings for a book. Next after that, I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, my fantasy girlies unite. Fourth Wing, so good. I rated Fourth Wing 5 stars. If you like fantasy, if you like dragons, dragon riding, mythical war colleges, all these things, read Fourth Wing. It's a big book, but it was a really, really, really good book. Next, after that, I read, now we're in August territory. We're just like perusing through this. Next, I read How Not to Die, Discover the Foods Scientifically Proven to Prevent and Reverse Disease by Dr. Michael Greger. He is a medical doctor. Again, this is a nutrition book on the topic of plant-based diets and plant-based lifestyle. Half the book is basically footnotes of all the research and studies he's included to back up his claims in the book. My one issue with nonfiction is you have to really be able to point out bias, and I feel like in today's day and age of misinformation, it's hard to read anything that doesn't have an angle to it, especially like because it's nonfiction. This guy's trying to tell me how not to die through my diet. And for him, the answer is plant-based eating. So, you know, I sometimes when I'm reading books like these, I play devil's advocate in my head, but I enjoyed his key takeaways and his overarching message, which is we should be eating more plants. The standard American diet, the SAD diet, is not healthy. And so this was a great read for me. It kind of like, it gets kind of medical at some points. I had to kind of like flip some pages because he talks about like really hardcore studies and experiments that have been done on diet over time with different patients and people. And I'm like, okay, I just need the key takeaways. But, so it's a little in the weeds at points. But I gave it 3 stars because I did walk away learning like some more foods I should be incorporating into my diet, and so I appreciated that. Next book I read at the end of August, almost entering September territory. The next book I read was Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, and this one was such an interesting read. I would consider it just in the genre of dark fantasy, kind of like a haunting element to it, mixed, but not haunting as in like paranormal and ghosts, haunting as in kind of like childhood folk tales or like bedtime stories come to life in like a creepy way. I really enjoyed it. I rated it 4 stars out of 5. It was a little angsty with the main characters, but the main character, she is such just a spitfire person. Like, she just says that as it is. She's tough. She's rough around the edges. It was a good book. I liked it. There's a little bit of a love story there too. Dark fantasy, really good if you're into fantasy. Next, I've been reading the Lore Olympus graphic novel series, which was popular when Snapchat came out, which was when I was in like middle school, and I always got ads for it at the time, and I never knew what it was about. I was like that kid who was really into Greek mythology growing up, and I know that's so lame and corny, but we had one English lit class. I think I was in like 6th grade, and it was based on, or at least we had one really big unit on Greek mythology. That's when Percy Jackson came out and this series came out, and I was just eating all that up. I never read Lore Olympus, but I've already read the first 3 volumes, so I'm just going to put the first one here. And I've been rating them 5 stars because I just really enjoy them. It does something for my inner child. It validates all the weird, quirky things that I liked when I was younger, and that I always was like, oh my god, like, why do I like that? Well, I like it. And also the art style is just really pretty, lots of pinks and blues and color. It's funny to see the different personalities that the author, Rachel, I don't know if she pronounces it Smith, but it's spelt Smythe, Rachel Smythe. It's really interesting to see how she's portrayed the different personality types of the different Greek gods. So if you want to like give a throwback to Greek mythology from like your early childhood days, definitely check those books out. This starts to get into where I started reading books on my Kindle as ebooks. First, I read Tom Lake by Anne Patchett, which I know was a Reese's Book Club winner or pick. I think it's just a pick, Reese's Book Club pick. I gave it 3 stars. I was not a big fan of Tom Lake. Anne Patchett, mind you, this is my first like book of hers that I'm reading or have read. She uses very descriptive writing, which her ability to like describe what a place looks like is very nostalgic. Like you feel like you're there. And the scenery in this book is beautiful. It takes place in Michigan for the most part. It involves a lot of actors, and so it's also kind of flowing between present day storytelling, but also a mother, the main character who is a mom, relaying stories of her younger days as a budding actress to her present day children, who are asking stories about a potential love story from her past with another actor that went off and became really famous. So once I understood that time was passing without like explicitly saying, okay, present day, and then, past tense, once I got the hang of that, I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. But something about it like just didn't hold my interest. There wasn't enough resolution, not enough punch for me. It just kind of felt like a melodrama the whole way through. So I didn't love that one. And finally, we're on to the last two books that I have recently finished. The first one being Happy Place by Emily Henry. Emily Henry, I see her books and her covers everywhere. I even blind recommended her to one of my friends for like a summer vacation read, because that's kind of been the vibe that Emily Henry has given off on Book Talk, is like she's like, even like the New York Times bestsellers, she's kind of just always on there as like a summer read. So I was like, okay, I'll get that from this book. Happy Place did not bring me to my happy place. I don't know. It was just kind of like all the characters just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and then the resolution was just like abrupt and out of character for the main characters, personally speaking. I don't know. I rated it 3 stars, and I feel like that's being generous. I really did not like that book that much. The latest book I just finished, Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. Her last name is NG. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Little Fires Everywhere. Oh my gosh. I rated it 5 stars. This was a really popular book either I think like in the early 2020 or 2021, like a while ago. And I just read it, and I know it's like a show on Amazon Prime, I think, on Prime Video. It was so good. It was kind of like, utopian affluent neighborhood in Ohio, which is a real neighborhood. It's just really interesting to see the dynamics between an outsider from outside of town, a nomad who is trying to like settle roots for her daughter, and her daughter's interaction with the main sophisticated upper class woman's children who are around the same age as her. There's themes of pregnancy and what to do with young pregnancy, or a mother's past decisions with a previous pregnancy when she was younger, and the path that she goes on based on the decisions she made at a younger age, and her background, and all these different elements of adoption, all these different decisions with, your reproductive choices, I think is fascinating. Like, this was an amazing book for me, especially in like a post-Roe world that we're living in. It raised so many great questions about who parents truly are to a child. Is it biological, or is it the nurturing environment with all and the best resources thrown at you? Who would make you a better parent? Biology or the nurturing environment you're growing up in? So it raises all these questions. As someone who, full disclosure, I've actually donated my eggs through one egg donation cycle in the past. This was years ago, to help a couple on their fertility journey. And as someone who's gone through that, I just found this book really fascinating and really, question those hard questions of life. And anyways, I just thought that was a really awesome read. As for right now, currently I am just starting Iron Flame, which is the sequel to Fourth Wing. And I'm excited for Onyx Storm, the 3rd book in the series, to come out next year. But that wraps up this quick overview of all the books I've read so far in 2024. I know I've read a lot, at least for me. Compared to some people I know, I feel like I don't read that much. My goal is 30 books this year, and I'm at about 24 or 25 books so far this year. So if you are interested, if you're a book lover like I am, my Goodreads will be down below, and we can connect with each other there. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this style video. I know I'm kind of throwing it together randomly the lighting is bad, it's dark out and it's late, but I'm here for it. So if you enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and give a like, leave a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel. I do all things flying content, lifestyle, just being a girl who has hobbies in her mid-20s. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers. Like, this means so much to me, and I'm hoping that we hit that magic 1K sometime soon. I know it's gonna happen. So if you enjoy watching my videos, I love you. That's amazing. I love all your support. Go ahead and share my channel with anyone that might be interested in watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.